Hey guys, welcome back to Paulies Sleepers. I got a different camera angle here today. Going to try this out. Week 9 DFS DraftKings tournament plays. I'm your host, Paul Lundgaard. Thanks for joining in. Hey, do me a favor, subscribe to my channel and then click on the little bell and you'll get the notifications when my videos drop. I only do 2. I do one on Wednesday, that's a kind of a first take, and then I do one on Saturday night or Sunday morning. Last week, gave out 3 lineups on Sunday morning that almost completely faded all the weather games, and they did well. 2 of the 3 lineups cashed, so we've cashed in 3 of the last 4 lineups that we've given out. Was definitely worried about the weather. With the wind is more concerning to me than the rain. I see 20-mile-an-hour winds, and I don't like the signal callers or pass catchers. So focusing on the dome games and the Cincy Indy game that was dry worked out really, really well for us. I like the way that this slate is shaping up. I'm going to give my picks, and then on Sunday morning, probably Sunday morning, we will review and give out some lineups. First thing we're going to do is go over Jackson's picks for this week. Now, I reviewed his picks for last week, and if we went with his picks minus the ones I didn't like, it was like gold, because I went through his picks and I said the ones I didn't like, and all the picks that we both agreed on were fantastic. So this week he likes, in order, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, and Drew Brees, and I love it all. He likes Todd Gurley, Leonard Fournette, Doug Martin, and Carlos Hyde. I'm going to fade Martin and Hyde, but I like Gurley and Fournette. He likes Dez. I like that. He likes Mike Thomas, and I'm good with that. Mohamed Sanu, I'm never going to fade that guy. And Jeremy Maclin as a deep sleep flyer. Tight end, he likes Zach Ertz. Love it. Travis Kelce, that's good. Jimmy Graham, very, very good. Cameron Brate is always a great pick. And then his sleeper this week is Jonnu Smith. And Delaney Walker is out for the Titans. That might be a juicy matchup. I like all of those tight ends. For defenses, he likes the Jags, the Texans, the Seahawks, and the Eagles. And I like all of that, but there's one defense this week that I'm going to play in every single lineup, and we'll get with that soon, and it's one of the defenses he likes. So let's get into the slate here. It's the main slate is 10 games this week. And I am definitely paying up for quarterback this week. They've made it impossible to pay down and get a value quarterback this week. There's nothing in that 5K range like the McCown and the Tyrod Taylor, Andy Dalton that's been working out great for us. So we're going to have to pay up at quarterback this week. There's a couple mid-range 6,000 guys I like, but I am fine with paying up for Deshaun Watson at 8,100 at home against the Colts. His floor is so high, his ceiling is so high. Russell Wilson at 7,300 at home against the Skins, like that too. Drew Brees, I haven't talked about him at all this year, and he's had an off year, and they've ran the ball more, and he's struggled a little bit, but this is going to be the week to play him. He's only $7,000 at home against the worst secondary in the league, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I love it. Dak Prescott is 6,700 at home against the Chiefs, and their secondary is definitely vulnerable. And Alex Smith on the other side. Although I'd much rather like all these home quarterbacks, I do like Alex Smith at 6,500. He's kind of proven that his floor is around 18 points, and that's about what we want. For 6,500, we want about 18 to 20 points. Then Carson Wentz at 6,100. I think that's just ridiculous that he is that low. I'm going to buy into Wentz until he proves me wrong. Moving on to running back, Zeke is out this week unless the injunction sticks. So he's going to be out for the next 6 weeks. So the running backs at the top that we like is Kareem Hunt. Dallas' secondary is horrible. Their run defense is horrible. Leonard Fournette is trending towards he's going to play, and if he's going to play, we'll put him in there. Todd Gurley at 8,100, definitely like that play. Mark Ingram, 7,600. He's just proven that he can get it done. I kind of like Alvin Kamara, the next one, more at 6,300. Coach Payton might bench Ingram for a while just to kind of show him who's boss on the fumbling. He doesn't like the fumbling, and Ingram fumbled twice last week. I think they're both in smash spots, but I like Kamara a little bit more at 6,300. Lamar Miller at home got 2 touchdowns last week against the Seahawks in Seattle. This week he draws the Colts at home. I love it. He's questionable with a knee injury, so we want to keep an eye on this because Deontay Foreman, the rookie that I've been telling everybody to watch out for, only got 1 touch last week, so he probably isn't going to be a factor like I thought he was going to be unless Lamar Miller sits. If Lamar Miller sits, we could definitely play Foreman at 4,000 and maybe even a little Alfred Blue, who is like 3,600, I think, this week. I didn't look that up, but Alfred Blue is a play if Lamar Miller sits. Joe Mixon at 5,100. I was really high on him last week. He had a decent week. If you didn't watch the game, on his 67-yard reception, he almost made the end zone by like 2 yards. So he definitely flashed last week, and Jacksonville is vulnerable on the ground. Their cornerbacks are shut down, so you have to run on them. So I like that play. Alex Collins at 4,600 I think is a really good play. Even though Tennessee's run D is stout, he will get the work, and that's the price that we're looking for. If we're going to pay up for quarterback and some of these running backs, we need to get value, and at 4,600 I think he's great value. I also like Marlon Mack at 4,100 for value as kind of a salary dump is what they talk about. You know, when you're paying up for all these players, you need the cheap salary dumps, and he's been getting more and more work. I think that's great at 4,100. Also the aforementioned Deontay Foreman at 4,000 if Lamar Miller sits. Frank Gore is another salary dumper at 3,900. He'll get the workload, and at that price, he only needs to get us like 10 or 12 points to return value. I think he'll do that. Orleans Darkwa, who I liked real big a couple weeks ago, same price as he was a couple weeks ago, 3,900. They're coming off a bye. But he got like 8.6 points, and that was okay for a salary dump 3,900 guy. So I like him at home this week for that price. Will Fuller is my top wide receiver this week at 7,000. Definitely want to pair him with Deshaun Watson on a stack. If you remember a couple weeks ago, I said to fade Hopkins and just stack Watson with Fuller, and that ended up being a great play. And look what happened to A.J. Green last week. I mean, Vontae Davis is on the decline, but he can still hang with the big boys. Will he have a big game? Hopkins might, but he's $9,300. So I don't know if this is showing up right now. This might be showing up. All right, sorry, somebody was texting me, and I'm not sure if that showed up on the screen or not. So we like Will Fuller at 7,000, Tyreek Hill at 6,700, paired him with Alex Smith. Dez Bryant at 6,400, he's questionable. I'm going to want to keep an eye on that, but that's a really, really cheap price for Dez. He's getting tons of targets, and Williams and Peters are just horrible at the cornerback position for KC. Definitely pair him up with Dak. There's some players that you just got to stack if you're going to play him, and Fuller and Hill and Dez are all absolute stacks. Devin Funchess is 5,400 this week. Now that Kelvin Benjamin has left town, he's going to be the number one guy. We'll see how he does against number one coverage, but I'm loving the number one wide receiver for 5,400. Don't stack him, though. I like Sanu. Talked about him already for 5,300. He's finally above 5,000. He's always like 4,800, 4,900. You know, I always love playing him. He's getting tons of looks. He scored last week. I think this is showing up again. So I don't like the stack there, but 5,300 I'll play him. Ted Ginn Jr. at 5,000. He had a little bit of an off last week, but he doesn't need to do much to return value at 5,000. And this is going to be a big game at home against the Bucs. Definitely stack him with Breeze. I also like stacking Breeze with Ted Ginn and Alvin Kamara right now. Paul Richardson is 4,700. Paulies Sleepers. I've been talking about him all year, and he just absolutely blew up last week. Yes, there will be a lot of people on him, but he's just been getting looks, and he has like 5 touchdowns in the last 4 games. So I'm going to ride that streak while it's hot, especially for 4,700. T.Y. Hilton is 4,900 this week. He's only had 2 out of 8 games that were good, but in a GPP tournament play, when you can get a guy like TY for 4,900, I think you have to jump on it. I like the idea of pairing him on the Houston stack. So when you do Watson and Fuller, and I would even do Lamar Miller on that stack, come back with TY. It's a good idea when you do a big stack to come back with the top guy on the other side. So I like doing that, and I like that price. I also like Cooper Kupp at 4,500. Janoris Jenkins has been benched by the team for violating team rules. So he's a big tournament play too, 4,500, super cheap. And Sammy Watkins is just faded into the abyss and hasn't done anything this year. But he's got the ability, and he's 4,200. And like I said, when a player's that good and they're that cheap in a GPP play, you got to get them going. So I'm going to put a little Watkins in my lineups, not a ton. At tight end, we like Ertz this week at 6,800. Pair him with Wentz. That's the Wirtz stack. I've trademarked that. The Jimmy Graham at 5,000. Pair him with Russell Wilson. He's been smashing the last few weeks. Cameron Brate at 4,500. Double-digit points since like week 2. So again, play a guy until he proves you wrong, especially for 4,500. What I do with these tight ends sometimes is play them in the flex too, and play 2 tight ends. I've got no problem with playing Ertz and then Cameron Brate in the flex, or play Graham and then Jack Doyle in the flex. Because if you look, Cameron Brate is 4,500, Jack Doyle is 4,300. If you look and see what kind of wide receivers you're getting or running backs you're getting for that money, it's nothing. Would you rather have Cameron Brate or Cooper Kupp? Cameron Brate is a lot more guaranteed production. So we like Jack Doyle again at 4,300. He got 100 targets last week, and he's going to be the only guy in town here pretty soon. I like Vernon Davis at 4,100. Jordan Reed is hurt again. He has a hamstring. I know it's not a shocker. I should have told you to sit down first. Shocking news coming. Jordan Reed is hurt. But Vernon Davis, we've talked about this before. He's a must-play if Jordan Reed is out. He's actually been doing some work even with Jordan Reed in the last couple weeks. So that's just an auto start. Ed Dixon is kind of his last audition here for Carolina. Once their tight end gets back healthy, he's not going to get that much playing time. And sorry about that. So Greg Olsen is practicing right now. Ed Dixon at 3,100, especially with Kelvin Benjamin leaving, I think you might see an uptick in targets. So I'm going to play that. AJ Derby at 2,900 for the Broncos. Okay, hear me out here. I was already kind of looking at him, and then now we have the Brock Osweiler factor. If you look at his splits and his target share to tight ends over his career, it is absolutely ridiculous. He loves throwing to the tight end. So he's only 2,900, and Philly's 24th versus the tight end position. And they're going to have to throw. So I like him a lot at 2,900. That's going to be a big sleeper this week. Also, speaking of Ed Dixon, Curtis Samuel might be a great salary dump this week at wide receiver. The coach said that they traded Kelvin Benjamin to get some more speed on the field. I think he's talking about Samuel. I think they wanted to get Samuel and Christian McCaffrey both more involved in the offense. And he's $3,100. He's a great GPP play that no one else will have. We'll talk about it next week. He might get 6 or 7, but at 3,100, 6 or 7 is fine. But he could really, really blow up. At defense this week, this is going to be real easy. I'm playing one defense in all formats all across the board. The Eagles. Okay? There's some other good defensive plays, and Jackson mentioned some of them. The Texans at home against the Colts is a great play. The Jags at home against Cincy is a great play. The Seahawks at home against the Redskins, I'm kind of worried about that one. But the Eagles for $3,300 is a no-brainer to me this week. With Brock Osweiler at the helm, Trevor Siemian at the helm, Jake Plummer at the helm, whoever they want to dig out of the deeps, the depths, whatever, their offense is just absolutely anemic, and the Eagles are firing on all cylinders. They're at home. I can't stress this enough. I mean, they smashed last week, and they were one of our defenses last week. I wish I would have played them in all formats last week. They scored like 20 against the San Francisco 49ers. the Broncos are that bad or even worse. I'm telling you, they can't move the ball. So that's our first take, our early look. We'll give out a couple lineups on Sunday. Also look for me on the Juice the Morning podcast. Is going to be broadcast this week on Saturday or Sunday night. We're going to be talking about regular fantasy football, like season-long leagues, and daily fantasy football, and what's the difference. And we're going to focus on the playoffs coming up and what we could do to win some championships and make some money. So I'm very looking forward to that. That's Justin Kelly that's going to have me on, and I'll definitely let you guys know more information about that when that video drops. So thanks again, and have a great week.